And when gravity just starts smushing us down, right? So, we're here and then all of a sudden we're here and then, all of a sudden we're here. So there's a lot, like Maggie, you were just saying about the muscles in the back of the body that are very useful to support our strength, but there's also our core, which is there to kind of hold on to that spine and keep us stable. So when we're twisting, when we're twisting the vertebrae, it's even more important to have those gaps, the space between the vertebrae, very alive and well. So I think of it often like a spiral staircase. If you remember those old-fashioned spiral staircases, right? When you go up, there's always space, the risers, right? And if your risers go away, you can't really travel upward very well. So in our practice today, remember to try to keep this length of the spine. It's the most important thing you can think about when twisting, is to first find the length of your spine. If you twist your body in a compression, you're just asking for disc issues. So the discs, think of them like jelly donuts, where if they can get smushed and then the jelly can squeeze out, right? So we don't want any smushed jelly donuts. We want everything to be lots of space. Like pretend that you're carrying very precious donuts to people so that you have to not smush them as we're twisting. And one of the things, from the niyamas, which is the personal disciplines of a yoga practice that really are precursors to asana and pranayama and pratyahara and all the limbs of the yogic path. Before all that, we really need to investigate the yamas and the niyamas, which are the yamas are like the universal truths or disciplines that we all must follow as a world for moral living, right? And then the niyamas are more the personal disciplines that we can cultivate that can help us along our spiritual path. And the first of them is saucha, which just means purity or clarity. Some people translate it as cleanliness, like make sure you take a shower every day, but I think it goes way beyond that. And twists, to me, you hear this expression, oh, twists ring, you bring out your internal organs. They don't ring out your internal organs, right? All movement, all breath gives that squeeze and open to facilitate a lot of blood flow and a lot of movement through your body. And really the thing that stimulates that squish and release, that wringing out like a sponge in your internal organs, is breathing. So twisting will absolutely impact your whole torso, but it's the breath that really does the cleansing, that saucha in the body. And so when we're twisting, another piece besides keeping the long spine is to make sure that you're moving from the breath. So if you are, for instance, if you're in a pose like this and you have your elbow on your knee and you're just using the leverage of push, you can forget that the whole point of the pose is to elongate and breathe. So let's try to remember this in our twisting, that only go as far as the breath can take you. I've done a lot of practices this week with you all about breath in different ways. And this is just another layer of the breath where we have to be very mindful that the breath is the leader, always out in front of us. It's never lagging behind, like, come on, let's take it with you. The breath is always our guide. And so in twists, that might take you less deep in a twist. You might find that if you're not relying on leverage of the strong bones, that you can't go as far in a twist. And that's beautiful. So I want you to have some restraint, some capacity to back away a little bit so that you can really focus on length and space and breath as your components of any posture, but especially in twisting. And if you do this, it will support your lumbar spine, which is usually, if you have trouble with twisting in your back, these are ways that can help you make sure that you're not going too far. So last thing I want to say about it is that gravity does have this effect on us, right? So twisting, keeping the long spine in a seated posture is harder than keeping a long spine in a standing posture or a supine posture. So we're going to do twists along all of those vectors today. And the seated twists are the places where you're most vulnerable for jelly donut squish. Okay, so because the compressive forces of gravity are most heavy when you're seated, versus even when you're in a standing twist, like in a revolved triangle pose, Your spine is this way to gravity instead of this way to gravity. So the compressive forces don't lay down, on your crown as deeply. So supine and standing poses are easier. So if you do struggle with lumbar spine in particular, but really any part of your neck, any part of your back, but if you struggle with sacroiliac joint or lumbar spine trouble, be very careful and find the space and the breath and restraint when you're seated in your twisting, okay? All right, so enough of that, right? Let's go ahead and actually practice. So close your eyes for a moment, sit up straight and tall, and think about what Saucha means to you. To me, sometimes this purity and clarity comes best. Think about, having sand in a jar of water and you shake it up and everything's really cloudy. And then you just let the jar sit and everything starts to become clear. The sediment drops to the bottom of the jar. So this quiet space that we enter into, that hopefully even with movement we can maintain, is a big piece of cultivating Saucha, the calm, clear mind. So let's take a moment to close your eyes. Drop some weight down into the low body so you feel where that sediment can land. Imagine that you have any element you want to imagine, but if it's sand, just drop it down. See if you can let yourself become a little weighted, letting the mind become clear, the breath become clear. Finding the breath over and over again. Let's notice, relax your eyes. Relax your jaw. Soften into the steady places. How can you imagine that third eye? You can even take your middle finger right to your third eye and just gently, gently press, just so gently. And just feel that centered place. You can release your hand. Let your breath be the metronome that you follow into this state of clarity. Notice how the breathing is, besides just the steady pace and the calming effect in your mind. Notice the actual breath itself. How is your diaphragm moving today? Can you feel that your organs receive something when you breathe in? The diaphragm moves down. This is the massage for the internal organs. Coming back in as you exhale, letting the diaphragm move back. And try to notice the symphony of muscles in the center of your body, your belly, your back, that full cylinder of support. Can you feel the harmony of everything expanding away from the midline a little bit as you inhale? Use that time to lengthen your spine upward, outward, downward. And then as you exhale, hug on to the long spine. See what it feels like to support your length. So let all the organs get a little bit of compression and the organs themselves become support for the spine. So just feel a little bit of that ebb and flow of how the breath in all of its ways has this extra little added benefit of massaging the internal organs and helping the organs wrap the spine for support. Feel the length of you. And notice we've been sitting for a bit. How is your back? Do you have pain anywhere? Are there places where You need to maybe investigate a little bit in the body to figure out how to stabilize or strengthen. And let's place your palms at your heart. Bow in, clear mind, clear breath. What are you going to do with all this clarity? What kind of wind can blow through you? What kind of energy can move outward into the world that's clear and bright? And let's release the hands and come onto your back. All right, so always warming up, very similar ways. I like to warm up similarly for a couple reasons. One, it just is good for your body, but two, it settles you. It's like, okay, here I am in my practice now. So allow the routine of the warm up to just bring you into presence and gratitude for your practice. So let's just take a moment before we move. You can have your legs straight or bent. And now notice the change of gravity on your spine. Can you feel that your jelly donuts, your discs, have a little bit more room, a little bit more space? All right, and then let's reach the arms up and give yourself that morning stretch. It's like a little turning on button for your nervous system. So let's go ahead and stretch right side, stretch left side. Enjoy. Okay, the possibility of movement is embedded here, just like the possibility of the day is embedded in the morning. Let's just enjoy. And release the hands, release the legs, bring your knees into your chest and rock a little bit. Check in. How's your back feeling? How are your sacroiliac joints feeling? Okay, circle the knees a few times, one direction. Try to befriend the body. So all the places that you're noticing, can you just say hello and have kindness, respect, care? And then right knee into the chest, left leg long on the floor. Feel free to move around your feet, roll through your ankles, get that feeling in your calves, waking up your calves and your shins. Give a good squeeze and then change legs. Left knee in, right leg long on the floor. Feel the extension, feel the flexion, feel some movement in your feet. Feel some movement in your breath. So already start to pay attention to the long spine. Let's go ahead and release 2 feet on the floor again. Stretch your arms overhead, lengthen. And then exhale, pick up your head this time. A couple more times, starfish out, arms and legs wide. Stretch from your navel to your edges. Exhale, chin in, knees in, squeeze. Let all your abdominal organs be massaged by your breath, by your abdominal muscles. So deep breath in, stretch things out, open up. Exhale, round in. Give yourself a little squeeze. And then relax your head down onto the ground. Take your feet wide on the mat. And we're just going to windshield wiper left and right. So, this is not necessarily a big twist or anything, but it just starts to warm up a little bit of your back, a little bit of your hips. You can have your arms wherever you want them to be. And, generally speaking, I'm a big believer that movement in the beginning of a practice, kind of, back and forth is better than just staying in a deep lunge right away or something. Having some back and forth movement in the body is very warming for all the fascia and soft tissue in the body. It doesn't tax the body to go into any deep stretches just yet. So one more time, arms and legs out, feel that extension, and then feel the flexion. Roll over onto your side and come up onto your hands and your knees. You can always take forearms on the ground if your wrists are unhappy. And let's start moving through some cat-cows. So arching and rounding the spine, taking your time, noticing. Allow the head to droop. As it drops down, lift the tail, lift the head, and just notice try to pay attention to the vertebrae and the discs between the vertebrae. So, if our focus today is going to be on keeping the spine long, first just notice the spine. Notice how well you articulate between each vertebrae. Notice spots along the way that might have little alarm bells, and just find what's working for you. And then slide over to one side. So look how much my hips are dropping over the other way. So just open up the side body a little bit, and then come back and open up the other side. Just go back and forth like this, turning and looking out over your foot, just getting some wake up in the sides of your body. All right. And let's go ahead and find all fours again. Let's draw some circles on the wall behind us, so big pelvic circles. And this is a really good thing to do for your back. And if you know that your low back is vulnerable, let's open it up here so that we're really making sure that as we twist in our practice today, we have a lot of awareness of where we need to stabilize, where we need to be more free. And now circle on the floor. So navel circles. So belly button is doing a big circle on the floor. It's getting more into the hip joints now. Feel free to drop all the way back to child's pose as you do this circling swing through the body. And then go the other way a few times. How is your breath? I don't think I've mentioned the breath yet. So just notice if you're holding your breath, if you're allowing yourself to have that sense of deep and steady breathing. Come back to all fours one more time, a cat-cow, arching the back, rounding the spine. Come to a flat back. Inhale, lift the arm up in the air. Exhale, slide that shoulder down. Maggie, this is a good stretch for the rhomboids in between your shoulder blades. Okay. Place your hand down onto the ground. Take a breath here. So here we are in our first twist. So notice your hand on the floor can push really hard and force the twist into action. And you can do that without even taking a breath if you want to, but let's try not to do that. It's okay to have a little pressure on the floor to give you that feedback. Let's see what it feels like to have the breath be doing the twisting. Can you take the femur bones back to stay long in the spine? And then come back up. Lift that arm to the sky. Place the hand down onto the ground. Let's find the other way. Arm up, slide the shoulder down. Very gentle pressure on the floor with that hand. You can deepen, you can yield into the ground a little bit instead of pushing. Just yield. Give you that sense of leverage without it being a force that you're trying to manipulate the bones of your body. How is the breath? When we're twisting, the breath meets up against resistance. And this is really good for strengthening the diaphragm. All right, and then let's go ahead and come on out of there, lifting the arm to the sky. Okay, come down to child's pose. Take your knees wide. Lengthen your arms out in front of you, and just notice you might have a little back bend in your upper back. You might be rounded. Everybody's different in how they land in child's pose. So just notice the spine, the shape of the spine, the length of the spine, how your breath travels through your spine. And then let's walk the hands over to one side of the mat, opening up the side body as best as you can. And see if you can notice not just the outer rim of the body, like the armpit, the ribs, the hip, but see if you can get into the side of the vertebrae, like there's little side windows in between your vertebrae, shining some light outward. And then come back to center and walk your hands over to the other side. Relax your forehead down. Have your breath be a part of this. Once again, notice the rim of the body, the more obvious stretch that's happening. And then try to go into the stretch that's happening in the side of the vertebrae. Breathe there. Breathe as if your breath can shine light out the side rims of your vertebrae. And then come back to center. We're going to come back onto our back for a moment. And you can do this with your arms down at your sides or your arms up overhead. You get to decide how you want your upper body to be. Bring your knees into your chest for a moment, rock around. Then we're going to lift our legs straight up in the air. It's easier if your arms are down versus your arms are up. There's just a teeny bit less effort involved. So if you struggle with figuring out your spine, I would suggest bringing your arms down first and trying to figure out what's going on here. So this is a lot of work, obviously, in your hip flexors and the core of your body if you had to stay here for a while. But lengthen the spine. Use the floor as an opportunity to spread things out, like you're spreading peanut butter on a piece of bread. Just have that sense of length. Maybe you want to switch your arms. Breathe deeply. All right, and then the knees are going to come into the chest and release your legs down onto the ground. So hopefully that woke up some of your back muscles as well. Let's roll over onto our side, and we're going to come to dog pose. So as you find your way up into this posture, make sure you take the time to get the spine where you want it to be. If we were in the yoga studio right now, I would be having you do dog pose with the strap on your thighs. And some of you know that pose we've done before. So just imagine, bend your knees a lot so that you can imagine right in the hook of your hip creases, you have a strap pulling you back toward the wall behind you. Feel the length of your spine. Relax your head. Feel grounded through your arms. So root into the index finger mounds. Have a slight bend in the elbows. Draw your humerus bones up into the shoulders. Long, long spine. And then experiment. Do you want the legs to go a little wider, straighter? What's here for you? Even just pedaling the feet. This is a great way to get some movement into the calves. Your soleus muscles. There's a lot of muscles in your calves. They're really strong muscles. Find your breath. And then we're going to walk our feet forward and come into Uttanasana. So bend your knees, lift the tail, let the spine spill forward, relax your head, wag your tail, bobble around your head, move your shoulders, work out some kinks. Then inhale for a halfway lift. You can hold your thighs or your shins or your blocks. Then exhale and melt. Push off your feet, lift up, arms to the sky, and then trace down through the center. Find a wall somewhere in your house. Okay, so we're just gonna have our hands. We're gonna come to a half dog at the wall. And this is also a great way to do dog pose if you have trouble with weight bearing in your elbows, wrists, or shoulders. And even if you have one shoulder, you can do this with one arm and just have the other hand on your hip if you have a shoulder ouchie. All right, so use this as an opportunity to really find the length of your spine. So you can bend your knees, you can straighten your knees. The goal here is to find all the little jelly donuts in between your vertebrae and give them breath. Plump up your discs. All right, and then take a step forward and come out of the pose. Okay. Find your way back to your mat if you had to go searching for a wall. Inhale, reach the arms up, lean back just a teeny bit. Exhale and melt forward. Inhale for a halfway lift. Exhale and release. Let's come onto all fours. Bird dog, this pose where we have one leg back and one leg forward. I think it's an essential posture to include in your yoga practice. There's lots of good things that happen from this pose. So feel your glutes in that leg in the back. So I didn't say which leg, so whatever you got going on is fine. But more importantly, feel the cylinder support around your core. This will wake up the transverse abdominis, that muscle that wraps around your whole torso. And this is the muscle that will hug your organs to your spine. So they become like an airbag effect against your spine, supporting it for mobility. With the arm in the air, you get to start working some of the muscles along your back, the multifidus muscles, the little muscles that connect vertebrae to vertebrae. Try to dive into your mind there. Sink into the little tiny muscles in your spine. How is your breath? All right, and then let's place that knee and hand down onto the ground. Explore. Do you want some little pelvic circles or a cat-cow? What do you need to free up your body? And then as we go to the second side, before you lift your arm up, lift the leg and then find your way into your core. Stabilize your center. Square the hips and shoulders. And when you're ready, lift that arm in the air. And once again, if you need support, you can always put a forearm on a block. If your wrist is unhappy being on the ground, you can always have your arm behind you instead of out in front of you if your shoulder's bothering you. So just find that center core support. Find the breath that we were doing in the beginning of the class, where your inhale expands you, your exhale condenses you, contains you, feeling that core support on your exhales. Let the diaphragm move. Let the diaphragm be harmonious with core strength. Feel those multifidus muscles. And then place your hand and your knee down onto the ground. Once again, some cat-cow or some swirls, whatever your back is needing. And then find your way to dog pose again. Lengthen the spine, so bend your knees a little bit. This helps you get some length in the lumbar spine. Push off the floor with your hands, lengthen toward the pelvis. Relax your head. Deep breath in, deep breath away. We're going to lift the right leg straight up in the air. Can you find that length in your spine again? Exhale and bring your foot forward, come into a lunge. Now remember, that transition is hard. So you can take a different transition by putting your knees down and bringing your foot forward. So you don't have to do this leg swing through if you don't want to. Hands on blocks if you have them. Lift the back knee up off the floor. Feel the spine grow. So you're staying really long in the spine. Exhale or inhale, whatever you like to do, but start moving with breath. Bending the knee and straightening the knee. The whole while, can you feel that your spine is staying long? That your breath is moving through you? Can you feel the core engagement on your exhales? All right, let's come to a lunge. Rise up. You can have your hands on your hips. You can have your knee down if you prefer. You can bring your arms up. So wherever you go in your body, find your way here. So enjoy the waking up, the length of your spine. Reach and extend through the crown and the tail. Move them away from each other. On your exhale, still feeling that sense of condensement through the center body. Deep breath in. Deep breath away. Now we're going to wake up the obliques a little bit. Take your arms out to the side. You can also have them on your hips. And I don't want you to go really far. So try not to make your arms go past your chest, which is why it might be nice to keep them on the hips. And just turn. Okay. Notice the extension in the hip flexors. Notice what the exhales give you to twist. So the obliques on the exhale is where you want to gain your strength for twisting from. Elongate the spine on the inhale. As you exhale, use your core to do the twisting. Use your breath to do the twisting. And then come back up. Reach the arms up to the sky. Place the hand down onto the ground. Back foot comes forward. Inhale for a halfway lift. Exhale and melt back down. Soften your knees. Bend a lot. Relax your head. Relax your tail. Wag around if you want. Step back to dog pose again. Finding your breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Let's lift the left leg up in the air. Extend through that leg. Square the hips. Breathe. And then take your transition, whatever that looks like for you, to bring your foot forward. Lengthen through your spine. 2 blocks are so nice if you have them. If you don't, that's okay. But, you know, I really encourage you to get some blocks. If anything, blocks I think are, if you're going to spend any money on yoga props, I would say blocks are the best to invest in. But if you're going to plan on doing yoga at home for a while, why not? I got this block for $3 and this one for $5. So they're not, you know, you can get them cheap. Okay, let's find your breath. Square the hips. Relax your head down. Find your breath. All right, now that we've warmed up our legs a little bit more with movement, let's go ahead and find stillness. So come on up, hands go where you want them to go. Remember, your back knee can always be on the floor if you need more stability. Find your way. Your knee can deeply lunge. You can also be in a much lighter lunge. So let go of the expectations that your pose is supposed to look a certain way. Instead, go into the pose that's supposed to feel a certain way. So are you free? Are you able to breathe? Do you feel your spine can grow? Are you moving from the breath? Are you cultivating that purity, that sense of clarity in the body and in the breath and in the mind? Feel the core support. And then if you want to, place your hands on your hips. And we're just going to turn to the side a little bit, turning left. Lots of work in the legs. So hug into the inner, to the midline with both legs. Finding your breath. Notice if you want to kind of dump the belly down and arch the back, lift the pubic bone toward the navel, especially on the exhales. Let that be part of condensement. Find the obliques as you twist. And then come back to center. Walk the back foot forward. Inhale, reach the arms up to the sky. And then relax your arms down at your sides. We're just going to warm up the twisting in our spine. So back to some just movement, okay? This is one of the things while walking, when you walk, you have this very steady back and forth movement through the spine. You don't even notice it really, but it's very warming for all the tissues around your vertebrae. All right, and then find stillness. Close your eyes. Come into the breath, yield your feet, soften your knees, come into that bottomless breath where the diaphragm really feels like it can drop, like it goes down many levels, okay, through the body as you inhale. And as you exhale, that sense of condensement. Use your oblique muscles, use your transverse abdominis. Find that sense of hugging toward your spine. Feel the flow, the movement through your core. One of the best ways to feel the elongation of your spine is to yield into the earth. So soften the knees, press a little bit, yield, give yourself to the earth, and then rebound up. So a yield push, and notice the rebound up through your crown when you first give yourself to the earth and then push away from the earth. Let that find its way all the way through to the crown. Notice the difference. Lock out your knees, push your pelvis forward a little bit, the way we often stand, and notice if you have that access to your spine here. So chances are you don't. When you lock things out, we lose that pulsation through the body. So yield again, yield and push. And as you push, feel the sense of length through your spine. Let's turn this into a chair pose. Inhale, still yielding, still breathing. Exhale and bend. You can always stick a block between your thighs if you want to. You can have your thighs together and your feet together. There's lots of ways to find this pose. If your knees are troublesome, a block can really help stabilize your knees. Find your breath. Arms can be out, arms can be down, hands can be here, hands can be up. Extend the spine, yield, push through the spine again and again. See if you can find that sense of condensing on your exhales, elongating on your inhales. It's a lot to think about. So just go where you're able to go with that. And we're gonna flow through some twists here. So turning to the right, inhale, come back. Try to keep your legs, your pelvis straight. Not straight in the sense of straight, but facing forward. One more time each side. Turning to the right. Turning to the left. Arms coming back up. Exhale, fold forward. Heck, if you have that block, keep it. Step back to a plank. Find the sense of stability here. What does it feel like if you have a block between your thighs? Sometimes having something to hug with our inner thighs gives us more access to our core. So the inner thighs are kind of like an extension of your core. So feel if that Hugging of the block gives you a little more access to your obliques and your transverse abdominis. You can always have your knees on the ground. Elongate the spine. Imagine that dog pose against the wall. Okay, let's put our knees down. Take the block out if you had it. Find your way to the floor. Let's wake up those multifidus muscles one more time. So hands close to your ribs. Take a deep breath in. Open things up. Exhale and come back down. Engage through your core, so don't go anywhere just yet. Find your breath. As you exhale, engage through your core. And see if you can maintain a little bit of that even as you inhale. And come up. Exhale. Come back down. Take your arms back behind you or out in front of you. You decide what's best for your shoulders. Find your breath. We're going to inhale and lift the right arm and the left leg. Feel those little muscles along your spine. Breathe. And then relax and lower that down. Change sides. Stabilize through the center. Keep breathing. Keep elongating the spine. And then relax. Come up onto all fours. Maybe you want to sway from side to side or do some circles or a cat-cow. Find your way. Perhaps you want to go into dog pose. Perhaps you want to skip a dog pose. If you're going to skip a dog pose, just bring your right foot forward. If you're going to come into dog pose, stretch back, lift the right leg up in the air. Exhale and bring that foot forward. Inhale, rise up again. Arms to the sky. Hands on your hips. Extend forward. Reach the arms back behind you. Lift the triceps higher than your back. Feel the muscles along your back. Elongate your spine into that support. Place your left hand down onto the ground. Right hand can be on your knee. Right hand can be in the air. Wherever you want to be in this posture. Pay attention to the left thigh. Lift the femur bone up so that you're stabilizing the pelvis and not letting it roll with the twists. Find your breath. Find the long spine. Who cares how deep in the twist you go? Back away until you feel that the spine is growing and the breath is taking you there. The strength of your obliques are what's moving you. Let your diaphragm now be the massage for your internal organs, creating this inner clarity, this inner, not cleansing, but bringing a lot of blood flow. And then let's release the hand down onto the ground. Step your back foot forward. Inhale for a halfway lift. Exhale and melt back down. Other foot coming back. Come into a lunge. Rise up, crescent lunge. Find your breath, reaching the arms where you want them to go. Pay attention to your lumbar spine. Make sure you're not compressed. Long spine. Exhale, arms back. Feel those muscles along your spine. Lift your arms a little higher than your back. Extend the crown and tail. Place the hand down onto the ground and find your twist. Maybe you need a block under your hand. Maybe you want to keep your hand on your knee. Maybe you want to lift your arm in the air. A lot of times I've seen this happen with this pose, where people kind of lean back and drop this hip. Let's try not to do that. Let's find the stability. Hug in, extend the spine. Let the breath twist you. The exhales twist you. The exhales are your core strength. Let the core strength and the exhales do the twisting. On your inhales, feel the length of your spine. Are you able to yield? Can you yield, push through your feet, and give that feedback to the spine? Exhale and release the hands down onto the ground, back foot forward. Bend your knees. Inhale for a halfway lift. Spine gets longer. Actually, if you have blocks, take your blocks, elongate the spine. And if you don't have blocks, put your hands on something, maybe a couch. Get a little height and extend the femur bones back. A little soft bend in the knee. Try not to lock the knees back. Long, long spine. Inhale, rise up. Take a deep breath. Step your left foot back. Our stance is shorter now, so we're not going into a deep lunge. Have a block handy. Find your breath. Hands can be on your hips or hands can be in the air. Lengthen your spine. When you're ready, keep your right hand on your right hip. Extend, reach it forward. Find those muscles along your spine. Place your hand down onto the block. Adjust your legs, square the hips. If you know about inner spiral, upper thighs, inner spiral. Let the sit bones broaden, but then hug into the midline. Try not to let the hip, sometimes our hips hike out. Oftentimes your right hip might want to pop out right, so try to keep things stable. Extend the spine. After you find the spinal extension, start to find the spinal twisting. Breathe deeply. Feel the effects of gravity not coming crown to tail, but just on the length of our spine now. So a little bit more soothing. Reach that arm if it's available up in the air. Maybe it's not available. Maybe you need to take your right foot way out to the right. Give yourself a much wider stance. And just see what it is that you need. If you do that, still hug the hip in. Spine is long, stay rooted through your right big toe as you reach that hip back. Inner spiral of the thighs, sit bones wide. The spine grows, the shoulder blades move down the back. Find your breath. Let your exhales twist you. And let's go ahead and release the hands down to the ground. You choose dog pose or uttanasana, so you can just bring your back foot forward and come to a half lift, or you can find the length in your spine in dog pose, whichever feels nice to you. If you're in dog pose, lift the left leg up, bring it through, come to a lunge. Our stance is not as long as a lunge. Shorter stance, Parsvottanasana legs. Lift the heart, extend through the spine. Maybe you want your arms up, maybe you don't. And find your breath. Remember, do you need to take your feet wider apart for stability? That's always a good thing if you feel wonky. Deep breath. Exhale, hand on hip, reach that other arm forward. Place the hand down on the block. If you have two blocks, you can have one block under the other block. So never feel badly about using props. They create a lot of space in your spine. So feel the stretch of your spine. Stay rooted through the left big toe. Pull the left hip back. Hug the hip joints toward each other so you're not popping that hip out to the side. Inner spiral your thighs. Feel the release in your low back when you do that, and lengthen the spine again. When you're ready, start to find your twisting. Root the legs, extend the spine, then find the twist. Make sure you're exhaling to twist. Take advantage of the core support, your obliques, your transverse abdominis on your exhales. Inhales, lengthen your spine. Exhales, take you where the twist is going to be. Remember that level of restraint. So try not to fling your arm back. Let your hand in the air push into an imaginary wall, which will give you even more support for the core to do the twisting. Don't forget your inner spiral of your legs. Find the length of your spine. And then release the hands and go ahead and come onto your knees. Everybody onto your knees. Find a cat-cow. Find anything that's soothing before we come into our second plank. So as you find your way into a plank, remember you can always have your knees on the floor. There's lots of ways to support your shoulders. You can also take forearm plank if your wrists are not happy. Okay? Breathing, condensement, expansion, long spine expanding on your inhale. Condense to the midline with your inner thighs, even your ankles on your exhales. And let's go ahead to the floor. Come all the way down. Let's assess the sacrum and balance. You know, the twists can kind of take the SI joints offline. So it's important to kind of regroup them. So hands underneath your forehead, little spot for your nose. You can choose to have your legs together a little bit apart or a lot of bit apart. You decide. Inhale and lift just your legs. Forehead stays on your hands. Feel that hug of your glutes across your sacrum, like hug onto the sacrum, both sides. All right, and then release. Now we're just going to do a little external rotation while we do this. So curl your toes under, lift up your thighs and turn them out. So now you're resting on the inner kneecap instead of the solid kneecap. Take a deep breath. Do you want your legs far? Not so far, you decide. I like my legs far when I do this, but you decide what's good for you. And we're going to lift just our legs here. Notice the difference? The external rotator muscles underneath your glutes are very good at hugging onto your sacrum, so feel that hug. Deep breaths. Notice if you're stronger on one side. And then relax. Pick up your feet and just windshield wiper left and right. How's your breath here? Can you enjoy the long spine? Okay, let's come back onto all fours. One round of whatever you want, whatever your spine is looking for. And then we're going to come onto our seats. So grab onto a blanket to sit on, or a pillow, or whatever you have. A little bit of height for seated twists is really good because your pelvis, when you're on the floor, especially if your hamstrings are tight, if you're flat on the ground, you tend to roll back onto your sacrum instead of being up on the front of your sit bones. So being on the edge of the blanket can tip the pelvis forward a little bit and keep you in that neutral lumbar curve instead of rounding the back. Okay, so just notice your neutral lumbar curve. I want you to bend your knees as much as you need to for this, because this is a big pose for your back that we're about to do, and bending the knees can make it definitely a little softer on the spine. Reach the arms up to the sky. Okay, this is a big pose for the back, so bend your knees as much as you need to, lengthen, okay, and then release. Hands are coming to your sides. If you are up on a high height, you can grab your blocks to put your hands on. I'm kind of on a middle height, so it's a little awkward because my arms can't fully press it. My hands can't fully press into the floor. But just let this be a lengthening posture for your spine. Bend your knees. All right, let's go ahead and rest. Bring your knees into your chest. Let your back round a little bit. Stretch all those little muscles along your spine. We're going to scooch the blanket so that it's only underneath our left sit bone. And we're going to take our feet over to the right. So I know it's hard to see me, but you want to have the front of your right ankle resting in the arch of your right, okay? And just find that sense of allowing the feet to settle. So your knees are hip width apart. Your sit bone is on that blanket, so your other sit bone can drop down into the pocket. So I don't want you to pose to look like this, where you're kind of torqued. You want to have that sit bone drop down. Feel the reach of your spine here. Use your hand behind you to help you support that length upward. Find your breath here before we twist. Close your eyes. Feel that centered place. Inhale, reach the arm up in the air. Exhale, bring the hand to the outside of the knee and twist here. So I like this pose because it's easier to keep your lumbar spine curve intact than in some other seated twists, but try not to overarch the low back either. So sink the sit bone down, broaden across your collarbones, keep the spine lifting, so yield through your sit bone and reach up through your spine. Let the twist come with the breath. Maybe try turning your head, even turn your eyes all the way, full revolution. And then keep your torso, your collarbones broad, and only turn your head to look over your right shoulder. Just a little cross twist. And then come back to center and come up, and let's move to the other side. So scoot the blanket underneath your left sit bone, your right sit bone. Let your feet go off to the left. So you want the top of your arch to rest, or the top of your foot to rest in the arch of your other foot. Your knees are about hip width apart. Your sit bone is dropping down. So if your knees aren't liking this, get higher, get more props underneath you. Find your breath. elongate the spine. Hand behind you is a little kickstand to help you with that spinal length. Try not to round and roll. This pose is much easier because we can drop into that pocket and the low back has a little more freedom. Reach that arm in the air, take a deep breath, exhale, bring the hand to the outside of the knee. You can have your hand down on your knee. If you want to work with the rhomboids, those muscles between your shoulder blades, turn your palm out so there's some external rotation. This will change the action of your upper body. So feel the two. Keep sinking the sit bone down, broaden across your collarbones. Use the spinal length on your inhale and find the core to twist you on your exhale. Twists are complicated. There's a lot going on in your body. Turn your head, turn your eyes. And then when you're ready to keep the body and just turn your head the other way. Are you still lengthening the spine? Are you still leading with the breath? All right, let's go ahead and come on out of there. Have your 2 feet in front of you. We're going to come into Baddha Konasana. Soles of the feet are together. You're still on the edge of your blanket. Find the length of your spine. We're going to use the hands as a little leverage. So stick your fingers underneath the outer toes and lift your spine. Get your armpit chest to open up a little bit. Find the breath. If your neck's bothering you, maybe do a couple neck stretches here. You can drop one ear, drop the other ear. Let's go ahead and come out of there. Come onto your back. Find your breath. Okay, we're going to do an active bridge pose. So no blocks for this one. Hands can be on the floor. Your elbows can be on the ground with your hands up. Whatever way you like to do bridge pose is great. What I want you to focus on today is that hug on your sacrum. So if you got any torque from the twisting in your sacroiliac joints, let's heal that now. So as you lift up, see if you can imagine all the ways that your feet can move. So move your feet away from your body, pull your feet toward your body, pull your feet toward each other, pull your feet away from each other. And just experiment. Find the soup of all those muscles to swim in, and then just stabilize. You can always, if you want to put a block between your thighs, you can have a block between your thighs. Find your breath. Hug on to the sacrum. Deep belly breaths. Now you can see how much diaphragm moves your belly, moves all those internal organs, gives them a lot of fluid grace. Our body is built for movement. Even our internal organs, our breath, our movement, like walking, this is what treats our internal organs to the goodness that they deserve. And then go ahead and come down. Let's take the soles of our feet together. Our knees come out. Grab props. So you can have 2 blocks or a couple blankets. Stick them underneath your knees. If you want to hang, by all means, I'm not telling you you have to use props. But if you prefer having a little support, we're going to be here just for a few breaths. And now let this just find symmetry in the body. So twisting is always by nature asymmetrical. And that's the beauty of it. And let's now find the beauty in symmetry. Bring your arms out. Feel the spine stay long and spacious. Deep breath in. Deep breath away. Allow your knees to settle as much as they can. See what it feels like to drop into the symmetry of your pelvis. Let the breath travel all the way to the pelvic floor. bring our knees together. And you decide before you go anywhere. So put your feet on the floor and just scan your body. What intuitively do you want to do right now? Are you desiring bringing your knees to your chest or a happy baby? Don't move, just think of all the possibilities. Are you desiring stretching your arms and legs straight on the floor or a starfish? Do you want another twist? Do you want a hip stretch? Follow your impulse. So whatever it is that your body needs right now, follow the impulse. Deep breaths in, deep breaths away. All right, and then find your way. There's no rush. Find your way into Shavasana as you are ready. Okay, so you might want support underneath your knees. You might not. Just see what your body's calling for, asking for. Whatever you're ending up doing, see if you can make sure that your back feels very comfortable. If you want some soothing, being on your back, regardless of what your legs are doing, whether they're up a couch or supported with a blanket or a flat, feel the spreading out again, the spine kind of spreading out on the floor. Take a breath into that spread outness. Let all of your organs, all of your bones, all of your muscles find all the space they need. There's no need for tension. See if you can feel the breath travel into all parts of the body, into the back, the sides, the front. Instead of feeling that the exhales are where strength lives now in your center body, feel the exhales just drop you. Feel your organs become that sand that settles in the bottom of the jar on your exhale. Let your whole body feel like it's the sand settling in the bottom of the jar. Relax your face. Smooth, steady breath. Let's begin deepening the breath again. With your spine spread out on the floor, what does yielding feel like here? Can you give yourself one more gift of dropping into the earth? And invite some movement, whatever is working for your body. Let's go ahead and find some movement rolling over onto your side. Use your arms. Come up to a comfortable seat. As you become comfortable in the seated posture, just notice, do you feel like your back worked some? That's good. If you feel a little fatigue in your back, just notice the length of your spine again. That sense of your diaphragm breathing well. Let's place our hands together and offer our practice outward. Share your energy with someone specific or no one specific at all. Namaste. Thank you, everybody.